right. Good Friday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of your forecast. We're going to go ahead and break down the details on our conditional severe weather threat for tonight. I do want to spend a lot of time in this update about our severe weather potential for Saturday night into Sunday morning. Things look like they're trending towards potentially a more active overnight period where severe storms are looking more likely. And we've actually got enough wind shear with this weekend's severe weather threat that supercells probably will come to fruition, at least on a localized level. So we may have a short-term tornado threat as well with some of those storms as they come ripping through the southern high plains Saturday night into Sunday morning. So I want to talk more into details about that. Again, the wind shear is kind of conditional, but we at least expect a big complex of strong to severe storms tomorrow night. If the wind shear is just marginally higher than what forecast models are suggesting, it's possible we get training supercells, and they could pose a risk for all hazards, including damaging winds, large hail, and yes, maybe even a couple of nighttime tornadoes. So that would be kind of the bigger concern with some of those if that does end up coming to fruition. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on right now. We've got a thunderstorm there just on the north side of Lubbock County. That one continues to move from west to east. We've got quiet conditions here in the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles at the moment. We do have an aerial flood watch, though, in effect until midnight tonight. That includes Union and Quay County on the northeast side of the Land of Enchantment. So they could see a nice group of thunderstorms tonight that could lead to some runoff issues. Again, Ute Lake's about 5 inches shy of reaching the spillway. So if they get a really healthy 1 to 3 inches of rain in that watershed, it's possible that that gets that lake up to essentially full capacity. That's about as much as that lake's ever held, just because of the way that the spillway is built. We don't usually get enough water to get it much past that. So, and the last time it rained over the spillway was actually October of 2017. So it has been 8 years since we have seen that lake run over. So we'll see if it happens this summer or fall. Here's your Skycam view in Des Moines, New Mexico, up there in the northwest corner of our viewing area. We're looking northwest as well. You can see a few of those isolated thunderstorms that are going up near the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, which is still, again, probably 100 miles or so away from reaching our viewing area, but we could probably see a few storms work their way into the region later this evening. I think as early as 5 p.m. is when we could see some of those strong to severe storms work their way through. But more realistically, probably going to be closer to that 8 or 9 p.m. hour when we start seeing storms redevelop out there in Quay and Union County, and they could persist as late as 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. We don't really expect them to get much further than the state line between us and New Mexico, but they could still be strong to severe. The biggest risk would be damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour, and then some quarter-sized hail could also be possible. The storms will have a decent motion to them, so it's, again, the flood threat should be marginalized, but it's not eliminated entirely. Here's your temperatures outside. It's 80 right now in Amarillo. We had a lot of that low cloud cover, dense fog in some areas. It was even some mist and drizzle. I actually had 1/100 of an inch of precipitation from it this morning. The ground was extremely wet. So if you live by the 90-day rule, a lot of the old wives' tales talk about how we could have maybe a big system 90 days after that really heavy dew. So we'll see. Maybe we've got in October Halloween system that maybe rips across the Central Plains if you are a believer in those kinds of things. 81 in Clovis right now and 79 in Tucumcari. You can see those dew points pretty high, especially out in New Mexico. They're in the lower 60s, so we've got a lot of water to work with. Precipitable water values are in the 95th to 99th percentile, especially out there, and so storms will produce some pretty heavy rain. Now, the silver lining is storms are going to have a decent motion to them today. They may move around 15 to 20 miles an hour rather than 5 to 10. Saturday is going to be, I think, a bigger day for a severe weather concern. I honestly think by the time we get to this time tomorrow, you're going to see this slight risk expand even further south. It probably will start to include places like Pampa, Amarillo, and Shamrock in it as well. At least that's kind of what my thought process is right now. But the general bullseye looks to still be the northern and northeast half of the panhandles for that severe weather threat, at least from what I'm seeing. The concern is this may be an overnight event. We may not see storms get going until 7 or 8 o'clock. and some of them may not even develop until after midnight, and they could persist until we get close to the dawn hours of Sunday morning. The concern with this would be we've got about 25 to 40 knots of bulk shear. It just depends on which side of the panhandles you're on. The further south you go, the lower the wind shear is going to be. Plainview, Paducah, Lubbock. So some of the storms down there probably will be more of a messier complex. So I think your damaging wind threat would be the bigger issue, especially for the southern half of the Texas Panhandle. Now, as you get up closer to southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and maybe even parts of the North Texas Panhandle, our wind shear gets markedly higher. We're talking about bulk shear around 35 to 40 knots. For you guys who aren't meteorologists, storm chasers, wind shear is that special ingredient or parameter that you need for supercell thunderstorms. And supercells are just those rotating thunderstorms. They're the ones that are most prone to producing tornadoes just because you have that directional wind shear or changing wind speeds and directions in respect to height as you go up in the atmosphere. That's something that we're going to have on Saturdays, at least in the northern half of the viewing area. If we've got enough of it, when we get to 25 to 35 knots, generally speaking, we usually have what we call multi-cell storm mode. That's where you have complexes, linear line, and MCS, things like that. Those usually pose mostly a wind threat. We're looking at about 35 knots of shear right now. So we're getting onto that lower level or lower end of the spectrum where we may have to start thinking about supercell thunderstorms. We are pretty late in the summer, and so the air aloft isn't extremely cold, but it is cold enough to support enough instability for severe weather. We do have the wind shear. The cloud bases may be something to keep an eye on. That may make or break whether or not we have a legitimized tornado threat. If cloud heights are pretty high still off the ground, it's possible that that threat for tornadoes is limited, but being that it is an overnight event, our temperatures are going to be pretty low. I don't think we're going to have much of a spread between dew points and the air temperature itself. So that's my personal concern, is we may end up having some, semi-discrete supercells during the overnight period, tomorrow night into Sunday morning. And then Sunday afternoon, we hit another round of storms again here in the high plains before that ridge of high pressure starts to push closer to the area. We still have the northwest flow, and so we're probably going to get some more isolated, strong to severe storms in the afternoon and evening hours. That would be more traditional for the timing, would be closer to 5 p.m. Until about midnight at night. Let's go ahead and run through your computer model just to show you kind of what models are thinking, or at least our in-house model is suggesting. You can see by 5 o'clock tonight, you've got a couple of those storms maybe knocking on the door there in Union County. So that's why we've got that chance for that strong to severe storm potential as early as 5 p.m., but could persist until 1 a.m. You still see some of these storms working their way through New Mexico. Probably going to be more of a smaller cluster. I don't think they're going to pose much of a severe threat after the sun goes down, but we can't take it off the table. And then moving into Saturday, you can see those temperatures get back up into the 90s. And just notice these storms. They're kind of discrete. Could see them as early as 5 or 6 p.m. These could be supercells. You can see they really start to fire up late at night. This is midnight, Saturday into Sunday. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 really pretty strong updrafts, something to keep in mind. And we've got the winds out of the south, southeast at the surface. And as you go up in height, they begin to turn, and they turn all the way to the northwest and when you get up to that second half of the atmosphere. And so these are going to have plenty of rotation, I think, inside of them if they do inevitably become supercells. And just notice the temperatures. They're in the 70s. Our dew points are probably going to be in the 60s. So I do think supercells are going to be possible overnight Saturday night. This does congeal into a complex as it gets further south. That's just because we lose some of that stronger wind shear. You get away from the supercell storm mode kind of potential, and you get more into that multi-cell storm mode potential, just because the wind shear is kind of lacking down here in the southeast. But just notice, I mean, this is a big complex, and we still have some stronger storms potentially with some of this at 5 a.m. on Sunday. So again, don't be shocked if the phone goes off. You get some kind of WIA alert just due to some of these severe storms that could get going tomorrow night into Sunday morning. And then on Sunday afternoon, we'll likely get some more storms to try and get going. This is 6 o'clock. You've got some storms developing already, and those will probably get out of here by 10 or 11 o'clock. But we've kind of left that window open until midnight. for some severe weather potential. So that's currently what we're thinking for the weekend. Going to be very busy, going to be very active. So just make sure you're staying weather aware. As we head into next week, that ridge of high pressure is going to change the weather pattern. It gets closer to the high plains. That's going to allow for some drier conditions to unfold, allow us to kind of dry out a little bit. The question is how hot we get. Models have been alluding towards some lower 100s being possible heading into next week, and models are starting to kind of become more of a consensus that triple digit heat is going to be possible, even though that ridge may not be centered directly over the area. The height anomalies continue to get a little bit higher and stronger as that ridge builds in by the second half of the week. So we're talking like August 6th, 7th, and 8th. If we're going to have triple digit heat, it's probably going to be in that 3-day window. So that is something that we'll need to keep an eye on for your next potential weather maker after we get through the severe weather chances through this weekend. So I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. Wednesday, we've got you at 99. I know we haven't hit 100 yet this year in Amarillo. I think we'll probably get there Thursday if we don't on Wednesday. I've got you at 101, and then I've got you at 100 on Friday. I'm still not expecting us to see like record heat, 105 to 110s. And that has a lot to do with how wet we've been recently. This might be one of the more humid triple digit days you've probably experienced in recent memory. So just make sure that you are pacing yourself next week. If you work outside, drink plenty of water, take those breaks as needed. Again, we're still 5 to 7 days away. Things can trend down or up a little bit. So these numbers still are subject to change at least a bit. But currently, thoughts are we'll be right at that century mark, maybe a touch or two above it. And then we've got your 20 to 40% pop for some storms this weekend. Again, tomorrow night looks to be the most active storms and probably the feistiest ones. So just make sure you've got a plan. Make sure you're staying weather aware. We'll certainly be keeping you guys up to speed on what's going on tonight. And tomorrow, Josiah will be in. I'll likely be in here as well in the evening so that you guys can stay weather aware with us here at Storm Surge 7. That's all we've got for now. If we have any severe storms pop up later this evening, we'll probably jump back on. But I did want to try and cover in more details that severe weather threat for tomorrow just because things are trending probably more problematic in terms of having some severe weather.